How's it going, everybody, and welcome to How Good Is It Really? My name is Jeremiah.
I'm Luke.
And today we're talking about the 2022 Netflix original film, The Gray Man. I do not think I even saw a trailer for this before I watched it.
There's quite a few.
Which I kind of like. Like, a lot of the times I'll end up seeing a trailer by happenstance or by accident. But if just hearing about a movie, I can generally tell if it's something I'm going to be interested in watching or not.
Right.
And I don't know too many people that have seen this either.
No. But I was going to bring up a point. Have you noticed how many original Netflix films have been popping up on Netflix lately?
They've been making a lot.
Quite a few, actually.
They've always been making a lot, but yeah.
They're getting better. That would be my first thought. I remember watching a few of the Netflix original movies a couple years ago, and I've noticed a steady incline in quality where they are getting better actors, they are getting better writers, definitely moving away from the cheaper side of things, and I'm sure that was reflected in the budget.
More money to play with.
I think that's a fair.
I have a better
point.
access to writers and filmmakers that actually want to work with them.
Correct. Yeah,
so I'm sure that has a great.
I'm sure that the success of Stranger Things was like the rocket that launched
Stranger
them
Things,
into,
among other things, it's not all Stranger
I'm sure, but I think Stranger Things was certainly one of the shows that announced to maybe up-and-coming directors and maybe established directors that, hey, Netflix is not just a shooting star. Like, it's probably here to stay. And taking a gig from them is not going to be a black mark on your record.
Right. And previously, a lot of, when it first started out, a lot of Netflix original stuff, before they were called Netflix original films, were movies that they just bought the rights to.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not talking about movies that aired somewhere else, had a theatrical release, and then, they bought the rights to so they could stream it. I'm not talking about that. They've always been doing that, but I mean a couple films that they actually bought the rights to, that so they did not have theatrical releases. They were, by all intents and purposes, Netflix originals.
Right.
But they were not actually produced by Netflix. They were made out of house.
Yep.
And then they just shot them on the market, and Netflix bought it up for
Netflix
$80 million, and they just put it on the streaming service. So the first couple were just that. They weren't actually making them in-house as they do now.
Right.
So going from that, originally their actual first Netflix original films were, I don't know, maybe a little lesser on the quality side. Not by much, though. They've always been pretty competently made.
And
all their in-house shows and movies.
Yeah, and A-list actors are definitely taking the gigs. I mean, it's obvious from The Gray Man, which is the subject of this review, that there are several named AAA actors that are currently in vogue and in demand in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And
do you want to just dive into it?
Yeah, we'll just get right into it.
And I don't think we're gonna bother going beat by beat.
No,
we'll probably just hit characters and moments.
I would say Chris Evans in this film, I was genuinely impressed to see a different character than what he has typically portrayed, which is
seen Knives Out?
Yes, I have. Similar.
It reminded me a lot of Knives Out was his warm up for this.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Is what the thought that I had.
Knives Out, he kind of had a douchey frat boy vibe.
Yeah, he wasn't the murdering psychopath. He isn't a Gray Man.
Yes,
he was just that douchey eldest son kind of vibe. Thinks he can get away with
entitled
anything.
College kid kind of
But
thing.
I can see the progression.
Yes. And I think it actually is fitting with Chris Evans' actual personality, given some of his antics. Based on the perception of the Lightyear film, he's kind of a toxic human being in real life. But
I don't pay attention.
He's one of my favorite actors, regardless of the fact that I'm sure that he would think that I'm a terrible human being. I genuinely like his performances, especially as Captain America. Knives Out, I hate.
I wouldn't say he's one of my favorites, but he's
he's good. I do like his movies, though. I would say, what's his name? Ryan Johnson. I despise him with a burning passion. I think he's a terrible director, and I think he has horrible opinions and ideas. And he is known for poo-pooing on people who don't like his stuff. But I think that he did a great job directing Chris Evans in Knives Out, and I think that Chris Evans does a good job in The Gray Man. He plays kind of a
which the Gray Man
loose
is
cannon, like former CIA asset that has gone rogue and has like his own private entity of
not gone rogue
contract
necessarily.
killers.
Yeah, like he hasn't necessarily gone rogue. That's like putting it like a not entirely true. Like
he just kind of walked away from it.
He's just an independent contractor, like
and he has no rules,
which are corporations that like actually exist.
Yeah, he'll do anything basically to make a paycheck if it involves killing people, and he contracts out to
just anything.
Yeah, he contracts out to look for this guy, which we find out that the Gray Man, played by
Ryan Gosling.
Yes, playing Ryan Gosling.
Is it Gosling or Gosling?
Gosling, I don't remember. Mr.
Or was it
Goose.
Gosling?
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know.
He is the Gray Man in the film, and he has his typical kind of like perpetually tired, surprised look on his face.
Yeah, he looks like Ryan Gosling.
Yeah. And
he's good in the movie.
He's good in the movie.
Sounds like it's a diss on him.
It's a role that he plays really well because I think it fits.
Ryan Gosling's face just always looks like Ryan Gosling's face.
The lower half looks like he wants to fall asleep, and his eyes to his forehead, he's just like
he's perpetually surprised,
really?
And nodding off.
Yeah, and so he kind of has that appearance as like a sleepy, surprised person in this film.
To clarify, the Gray Men. Well, you've seen the movie, so you know. But the Gray Men that are,
if you haven't,
I like the setup of like a little bit of setup that is given for what the Gray Men are.
Right,
like it's this whole like separate side of what I'm assuming is the CIA.
Yes, they are the CIA.
Where they have this like Gray Man project where they basically rescind people's prison sentences, primarily people that have committed murder. In order to use them as assets.
People that have been tossed into a black hole and forgotten about.
Yeah.
They take them and basically wipe the slate clean, give them a completely fresh identity.
And turn them into assassins for the CIA.
Yes.
And that's Gosling's character.
Their entire identity is predicated on contract killing for the CIA, which I'm sure is a real thing. That's just how you know, like, the deep state usually, like, telegraphs its punches across, like, entertainment.
Yeah, totally.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, if you couldn't tell at all. I am.
No,
very much so.
See, I don't think you're a conspiracy theorist.
No,
you're a realist.
Okay, that's fair.
Like it's like I don't think it's too much of a conspiracy theory. The government just like
seeds
like
their
has
opinions and ideas.
Secret black book operations that like not even Congress has oversight of. Like
oh yeah,
no,
that's for sure.
That's like proven to be a real thing. Like in the 70s, there was a whole congressional hearing that happened to unmask a bunch of CIA and FBI IRS like black book operations that Congress didn't have oversight of.
Wasn't it a Joe Rogan show
that's
just
how
recently or
that's
something?
How it was. That's how MK Ultra got
that was a
revealed
good
in the
show.
70s.
That was a really good show. If you guys haven't seen it, you should go watch it.
But yeah, like I was watching, I was like, oh yeah, there's all this stuff. Like, so yeah, they totally do tons of like off the books things that they're not supposed to do. So,
but
not
then
surprising.
like they just kind of telegraph those things into our entertainment so that we are just kind of culturally accepting of the idea or the premise or process rather. Anyway, so Ryan Gosling plays one of these Gray Men. He refuses to take a hit. Doesn't kill the guy that he's supposed to kill. Gets told by the guy he's supposed to kill that the guy that he actually works for is actually not a good dude. He gives him this locket that has a little data chip in it.
Yeah, the like micro SD looking thing.
And at that point, he basically goes on the run to try to find out what is going on, essentially. And
here's what
it's a slow burn for me. Like the first 15 minutes of the movie was kind of dry.
With this movie.
Go for it.
The initial setup to put Ryan Gosling's character, on the run, I get it, but I also don't get it. I don't understand why he didn't take the shot.
Yeah, that it seemed a little.
He didn't
forced.
take the shot because, like, okay, there's a kid in the way. Like, if the kid's in the way,
but as soon as the kid moves, like the kid moves,
right? The kid moves, and he actually goes to the other side of the room to get a completely different angle on the target, and then is given the okay. Like, even if he didn't want the collateral, there's now no collateral.
So he just straight up just doesn't.
There's no
reason,
plot. And he kills him anyway. because he doesn't take the shot,
Yeah.
seemingly because he doesn't want to kill the kid, but the kid moved, and then he moved out of way of shooting the kid, and then he went to go kill him, and it didn't make sense from the beginning as far as, like, it was very contrived, just like, we need him to do the thing so we can do the thing, so we're just going to have him do the thing.
But
And that's
his
what they did.
motivation makes no
The
sense.
motivation was very, very flimsy.
And he clearly has, like, no problem killing people. Like,
Exactly, which is
absolutely
why
no,
it
no problem
does
with it
not
whatsoever.
make sense. Like, I can understand him not wanting to kill a
But
kid.
he is a moral
'cause that's
person,
an ongoing
though,
thing. Like,
'cause
he's not going to kill
you're right.
kids, but he.
And I know that
wasn't
seems like
anyway.
like a contradiction there that he is a moral person, but he actually is, because you find out the reason he was in jail in the first place was because he had an incredibly abusive, physically abusive father
Yeah.
that would basically torture him and his younger brother in really
Was it younger
sadistic,
brother or
evil
older
ways.
brother?
I think it was his younger brother, because I think he was the eldest, but maybe he was the younger. I don't remember, but anyway, he eventually takes a handgun and shoots his father and kills him.
Yeah.
And has no regret for it at all. Saved his brother from a lifetime of torture at the hands of his father. And he is rotting in jail for it as a consequence. But the CIA comes and gets him out and says that, we're basically going to give you your life back, but you have to do this thing for us. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway.
And his thinking on it is like, well, it beats being on. He says in the movie, it beats being on the wrong end of the bars. Like, I'd rather
Exactly.
be out here doing something than just sitting in jail. So, like, if I'm just going to kill people for you, like, okay, I guess I can do that.
Right.
Like,
And he kind of has that approach to everything in the movie where he's like, well, I got time. Okay.
I did enjoy how very just nonchalant he was in every situation.
Yes.
Where he feels and acts like a man that has complete reckless abandon and doesn't care and fully accepts that he can die at any time and is okay with it.
Yes.
Like, he's extremely confident in every situation because he really doesn't care if he lives or dies because he has nothing to live for.
Yes, until you find out that he has this relationship with the daughter of the man who basically trained him, and not in a weird way, like a father-daughter kind of relationship where he saved her life. She had a heart condition. He was put in charge of her security, basically, because she's the daughter
For
of
like a week.
Yeah, she's the daughter of a very important person that would obviously present a target in order to get to this man.
Yeah.
Would be to go after his daughter. And so Six gets put in charge of protecting her, and one of the first things that happens is her pacemaker goes out, and he rushes her to the hospital, and she lives. She's fine.
Yeah.
But they bond over this. And she doesn't like him at first, and he doesn't like her at first, and they become friends, and then she slowly grows to really like him, and he ends up killing a couple of assassins that show up at the house.
This is just another Thursday.
Yeah, just another Thursday is what he says. And there's this swing music playing in the background. It was pretty. It was cool. It kind
Silverbird?
of it kind of felt like a Guy Ritchie film a little bit. That
I can see influences in that. A little bit.
yeah,
A
very
little.
very Sherlock Holmes. The style of that choreography and things of that nature. I really enjoy those homages to Guy Ritchie. Anyway, the premise of the film kind of kicks off where this chip basically turns out to be what was on it? Like, I forgot.
So the
completely.
stuff that was on the chip was just incriminating evidence
That's right.
about Denny.
The dude that is in charge
I
of
can't remember his last
the
name.
assets.
Carmichael. Denny Carmichael, who's like the new guy in charge of this division at the CIA.
He's basically been using the Gray Men Project to further his own business interests, essentially.
Well, not even the gray man, but other assets, and hiring the private sector to perform hits, unsanctioned hits.
Right, to protect
particularly,
his business interests.
In specific, or specifically, Lloyd. What's his name? What's his last name? Evan's character. Lloyd.
Can't.
Something.
Yeah, don't know.
Lloyd something. But Lloyd.
Yeah,
He
that
looked
guy.
like a Lloyd.
I'm a Lloyd. Lloyd.
So yeah, it was basically this ship has incriminating evidence, which, as you come to find out, I think it was actually somebody else that had discovered this was happening and collected all the evidence to try and blackmail him. It was Four,
Yes.
the guy that Six
And then
is hired to
they
kill in the
burned
beginning.
Four.
So the Four ends up figuring this out about Denny Carmichael. So he collects the evidence and tries to sell it to the highest bidder on the black market, and that's when Denny puts the hit out on 4x6, and then
Right.
we kick off from there.
It's a fairly simple premise. It really is.
Yeah, it's nothing new.
I think there's really good on-screen chemistry between Gosling's character and what is her name? She's great. the chick that's the other CIA operative. She's not a gray man, but she's a handler that goes rogue with Six to prove his innocence in order to take down Carmichael's character, and I can't remember her name.
Yeah,
but she was in a Bond movie, wasn't she?
Possibly.
In No Time to Die?
Didn't see it.
It was actually it was okay. Yeah, that'd be a good one to review at some point. I'm a huge James Bond fan. Love those movies. But I want to say...
So, my phone is being incredibly slow.
It's another one of those Fridays, people. We've all been there. Kind of a slower one for us. That's why we decided...
Right. Ana de Armas?
Yes! Ana de Armas, yes. She does a great job in this movie.
Yeah,
And
everybody does a good job.
Yeah,
all the acting
fantastic,
is really good and over the top when it needs to be.
Oh, yeah. And her and Gosling have good on-screen chemistry. They do a really good job doing the whole kind of buddy cop, unwitting partners in
unwilling partners.
There were some dialogue cringe a little bit at some points.
Which was?
Specifically when she picks him up after he escapes from the photographer that like hides him in his like secret well of sorrows kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was just a little bit. It wasn't a big deal though. I don't even remember either. I just remember that I was like, that was a little bit contrived. That was stupid. But
that happens a lot in this movie where it's just things will happen. That's a bit much.
Yeah, the whole film kind of comes across as being a bit too much, but in a good way. It's enjoyable to watch. It has a pretty simplistic plot. It flows really well. I will say I was a bit bored for the first 15 minutes of the movie. I was just waiting for them to get to the cool bits. And
I enjoyed... We talked about this before.
He liked it more than I did in that
enjoy
slow
the
slog.
first 15-20 minutes of movies more because I'm interested in like the setup they give for the story, like how things are going to progress. Because I want to see if like they're going to pay things off and how things are actually going to progress. So I enjoy the beginnings of films just a little bit more than I guess some people might.
Yeah, I was just kind of
and for me it kind
bored
of
with it.
Lagged in the middle towards the back end a little bit. Where
It does have a bit of a slow burn at the end. Slow start, slow end. Anyway, I would say that probably the biggest letdown for me in this film was the completely unbelievable 80s style action sequences that take place. This film is very over the top with its action sequences. Very. They can
in
be
a fun way.
Yes, they can be very fun. There are some completely unbelievable sequences.
Yes.
And there are two specifically that I'm thinking of.
Go for it.
The train sequence, and at the very end when they assault the compound. Those were the two that I can say wholeheartedly are totally unbelievable and completely unrealistic.
Sure.
Most action movies have gotten to the point where they've learned that people need to reload, that magazine capacity is a real thing, bullets are not infinite.
They reload.
Right, I know. That's what I'm trying to say is that, like, Hollywood has figured this out over time, that physics and reality is a thing. But this film seems to forget that physics is a thing. And in the train sequence, there are some ridiculous things that happen where Ryan Gosling is fighting dudes on top of a train while dodging shots from dudes inside the train, while Ana de Armas is racing an Audi next to said train, shooting at guys inside said train from said Audi. It gets a little ridiculous.
The SUV is like
firing a grenade launcher on a suspended harness.
Again, there's a lot of moments in this movie where it's just like it's a bit much.
That got really over the top really quick. I felt like I was watching a G.I. Joe movie. And when there's a sequence where they're going past a building that has like a mirror finish on the front.
Yeah.
And there's a dude inside the train, last dude that's inside the train, and he's like looking up, looking for where Ryan Gosling is. and Ryan Gosling like looks in the window and like notices that he can see where the dude is in the reflection, so he like aims the gun based on the reflection and shoots the guy. Okay, first of all, the train's moving too quick for that. You wouldn't have been able to even see the guy, let alone aim accurately in the like 3.5 seconds it took for that whole thing to take place. Second of all, the dude in the train would have no idea where he was, so he was in basically no danger whatsoever. And third of all, he's firing probably a 9mm through like 6 inches of like aluminum insulation, then another layer of aluminum, and then somehow that bullet is going to have a completely straight trajectory through all that crap and then hit the guy. I don't think so. Stupid. And it really just, it's going to take one of those 80s like action hits, like just over the top.
Yeah.
Die Hard was more believable than that. That was really stupid. And then he jumps off the train that derails and it is wrapping itself just around this like courtyard, and he like jumps off the train and lands on the front of the Audi, doesn't completely wreck the windshield and the hood, and isn't completely just whipped off the front of the Audi because physics apparently have been suspended and he can just hold on to the front of this car. It was stupid and it made no sense. The other part was when they were assaulting the compound at the very end of the film, and Ana de Armas, who is supposedly this very well-trained, very highly decorated CIA asset. She's in control of other assets. She's not one of the gray man. She's not a grunt.
Right.
And she just charges straight forward into all of the oncoming fire. Like,
yeah,
I am not by any means a tactical genius, but I've played enough Call of Duty to know you don't run straight into wherever it is that you're getting shot at. We do find out,
like, it is stupid. We do find out, though, that she's just making the assault as a distraction.
Right, but her assault makes no sense. Because there's, like, 2 machine gun nests, a sniper, worst sniper in the history of ever, by the way. We're talking, like, 200 yards, and the guy cannot hit a woman running on foot while carrying an RPG.
Dude
couldn't hit. Dude, the guy couldn't find his way out of a wet paper bag with both hands. Like,
he couldn't hit the broadside of the barn with a beach ball.
Couldn't find his butt with both hands in the dark. There's
a lot of bad guys like that where it's like all the bad guys are stormtroopers in this movie.
Yes, just
except for Lloyd.
Suck at their jobs.
Lloyd is the only one that is slightly competent.
Semi-competent, yes. And that whole sequence just made no sense because she'll just stop, fire a rocket, and just nail whatever she's shooting at.
To be fair, she didn't stop all that much. She did
shoot stopped twice. She did stop twice though.
She was in cover.
One time she was not. She was just straight up like
one
out
time,
in the
one
open.
time she wasn't.
And I was like, bruh, come on, this really? And it just made no sense. And it wasn't. It was just really poor decision on the choreography and the writing department, where they're like, yeah, we're gonna have her stop right here and fire a rocket. It's gonna be awesome. She'd be dead.
It was a lot of
so dead at that moment.
Like, it's your typical action movie where a lot of it is action for the sake of action.
Yeah.
Where they kind of write things around certain action set pieces that they want to have happen.
And no one stops
it doesn't
to
really
think
matter
about
if it makes sense to them.
Yeah,
like,
no
just
one
doing the thing because it's a cool thing to do. Which
Yeah.
on one hand can be fun.
It's just funny because you see her, like, the camera's like way back here, and you see her running across the courtyard on foot, just hoofing it with this RPG, and the sniper's just shooting shot after shot, and she's running like straight at him, and he can't hit anything. And I was like, oh man, I kind of had to laugh at that
from
part.
that distance, I probably could have iron-sighted that shot.
I could have thrown a rock and gotten closer. It was rough. So anyway, the only other unbelievable part was when Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans' character get into a fight at the very end of the film. Okay. And they finally have their like epic duel fist fight, whatnot.
Yeah.
And he gets stabbed over and over again. And it's like he just gets kind of scratched. But he just like straight up gets stabbed like 3 times. And he kind of just shrugs it off. Like, clearly, like, he's in pain, but not that much pain. And he can still, like, keep on fighting to the point where he wins the said fist fight.
Well, unrealistic.
No one gets stabbed.
It.
No one gets stabbed like that.
But I liked
and
it.
shrugged it off. It's cool. It was very unbelievable.
Yeah.
Very unbelievable.
By the time I got to that point, I kind of checked out on believability.
I guess that's fair. It's
Where it
like
was
if you go
just
into this
like-
film expecting to have like,
because
some
he
sort
was
of like
winning that fight from the very beginning.
he was until he got stabbed 3 times and then was like, okay, I'm gonna slow down a little bit.
Yeah, so it's not like he was like ever losing that fight, except for when the knife first came out and he got stabbed a couple times. But that was it. Like he immediately.
It was the
had
fact that
control
he
and took control
it was just
again.
the fact that he got stabbed and it did not really affect him the way that it really would if he
The
had
being
gotten stabbed.
actually.
And it's not that getting stabbed is this instant death blow, it's the shock. It's the fact that your body reacts to that kind of a wound in a way that robs you of your ability to control your motor
It
functions.
can, but you also.
It's like if you've ever
There's
broken
also
a bone.
a certain amount of adrenaline
It's
that
true.
your body will produce to compensate for that, and
But he
you can
hadn't-
train your body to overcome certain aspects of, especially when it comes to getting injured, to breaking bones, to getting shot, like the training
yes.
that the SEALs go through and what they actually go through in combat. And
Oh,
things
yeah.
like that. It's like assuming he had similar training to that.
Oh, I'm sure.
I
that,
find it entirely believable that he can get stabbed 3 times and kind of not have it affect him for a little bit.
The problem I have with that is that nothing you said is false. It's the problem is that shrugging off gunshot wounds, which we know people have done in the heat of the battle, you take a wound in the shoulder or somewhere that you don't really notice because there's not a lot of pain receptors in that area and you're just hopped on adrenaline, you don't feel it, and then you look down and you're like, oh, look at that, I'm bleeding, I got shot. First of all, it doesn't happen nearly as often as Hollywood would like you to believe because physics
but
are a real thing.
My point being, though, I can
Shrugging it off is
believable
fine
for people that have
but he
training
hadn't
to
been
do so.
he hadn't been shot up to that point yet. He hadn't taken any kind of serious bodily injuries. So the fact that you can't say that, oh well, his adrenaline was up at that point. Sure, his adrenaline was up at that point, but for the sake of trying to interject as much believability into a completely fictional story as we can, he did not have any severe bodily injuries that would override the pain from being stabbed and the shock from being stabbed to allow him to react the way that he did. Which was basically to like, he kind of like freezes for half a second and then like keeps on going.
Kind of like, oh, that sucked.
Yeah, and it happens like 3 times. Like
does,
the same
yeah.
way that when you get hit in a fist fight, like you might be able to like shrug that off. He kind of has the same reaction to getting stabbed. I get that it plays off that he's a super badass and he just like can take it and just go through it.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool, really unbelievable though.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing
Or like
that it was
Lloyd's
unbelievable,
character
but I
like losing a finger and like having like 4th degree burns from a flare gun, and then his reaction is like, "Ow!"
Well, to be fair, that wasn't his reaction when he lost his fingers. When he lost his fingers, he took the shoelaces out of Claire's shoes so he could tie off his fingers so he
Yeah.
wouldn't bleed, which I thought was like, okay, that's a nice little detail to throw in there.
But they're cauterized, like they were burned off. Like they're not gonna bleed.
But just in case, especially if you're going to go like breaking the wounds open, like hitting stuff, because he does the whole
Yeah,
because he goes to punch him, but it hasn't quite sunk in that he's like doesn't have 2 fingers yet.
He hits him and then like has he does have
like,
it.
how's your fingers?
Yeah. It does
There's
play
a lot
for
of
laughs though.
comedic moments
I
in
can
this movie
completely
that I
forgive
appreciate.
that. I can forgive that because Chris Evans is funny and that moment is funny. And it's played to be funny, and therefore it gets a pass on believability because the point is not to be real; it's to be funny, and so that gets a free
it's
pass.
to be funny and to be entertaining and over the top. Like you can tell they're not going for strict believability,
No.
at all. Which
I will
if
say,
that's the tone of your movie, that's fine.
have you ever watched a movie where the movie continues to put this person on screen and gives them lines, but you don't care about anything that happens to them because they are basically a cardboard cutout with lines?
I'm talking about Denny.
No, I'm talking about the other chick that was in the command center with Chris Evans' character. That her whole job was to yell at Chris and be appalled at all the things that he said he did
Well-
while watching those things unfold in front of her.
Yes, to be fair, that was her job, but that was actually also her job.
Yes.
From the agency.
But do you see like my point where the reason why I asked is because
she didn't really have a whole lot to do
she
in the
had
movie.
like nothing to do in this movie. Like her job
Yeah.
was to stare at a screen and give commands and look shocked and in horror when something awful happened.
I guess she does like come up with like the master plan in the very end on how to spin everything to blame it all on Lloyd.
Yes, she does.
Like-
After she shoots him and takes all the credit for what Anna de Armas' character and
Six did.
and Six do, and then tries to put the girl into like protective like pseudo custody to basically
holding her
hide her
hostage
because her
to
dad got
keep
killed
Six.
to keep Six
Uncle.
from to keep
Uncle.
Uncle died.
Billy Bob Thornton's character.
Yes, that's right.
Claire's uncle.
He dies.
I mean, the girl that played Claire, did you recognize her?
I want to say yes, but I don't remember from where though.
She's Julia Butters. She played the little child actress in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That has that
Oh, that's
conversation
right.
with
That's
DiCaprio.
right. Yes,
Yeah.
the really obnoxious know-it-all child.
Yep.
Other than that, I didn't really get what her like role was in the movie. I had to stop it and try to remember what her name was. I was like, wait,
To
she's
be
just
fair,
a like
I didn't remember
angry,
anybody's
like,
name in this
angry
movie,
CIA
except
chick.
for
Like,
Six.
wait, what's your job again?
Denny.
Oh, okay, you're the okay.
Yeah, Denny, and I think you have Danny. Like Danny Armada is the chick that's with Six.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the other people's names, but then again, I don't remember any of their names.
Yeah,
Like you remember the ones that are important. Like she's just not that important to the movie and what happens.
I think this movie doesn't take itself very seriously.
Oh, 100%.
And
Which is okay. Like,
It's fine. It's not a big deal. But also, this movie is not the best action movie by far that I've ever seen. I think that the standout performances by Chris Evans and Ana de Armas and Ryan Gosling and Billy Bob Thornton do a great job at.
see, I think Ana de
selling the
Armas
premise.
and Evans are the standouts for me.
And then what was the
I
name
really,
of the
did
Indian
like Gosling,
assassin
though. Like
that they fight
the
with?
character's name or like the dude's name?
The dude's name.
I don't remember either.
So
Let me see.
at a certain point in the movie, this was actually a really cool part where this
Danush,
assassin.
the character,
Yes.
Avik San,
Yes, that
he's
guy.
played by Danush. That guy, right?
Yeah, Danush. Like, that legit is his name.
Yeah, I'm trying.
No last name.
Assuming he has one name, so professional Indian actor, producer, director, lyricist, playback singer who probably works in Tamil cinema. Okay, so
Anyway, so he's in the
yeah.
film as kind of this contract killer that Lloyd's character hires because all of the other assets can't figure out how to kill this one dude.
Somebody please shoot the guy handcuffed to the bench.
Yes, that was a funny moment. And he sort of succeeds, but not really. He gets the locket, but can't kill either of Six or Ana de Armas' character.
Right, he just gets the locket.
He just gets the locket and gets away.
Yeah.
And then, not really sure why they did this, other than I guess maybe just to do something different. But basically, when he finds out that Lloyd's character is this trashy human being, which makes no sense because they have this previously established like relationship of having worked together in the past. Go ahead.
If I may, there is a very specific moment that happens that is very clear in the film when he realizes what's happening and where you can see the wheels start turning. So, yes, they make it clear that this character has done work for Lloyd in the past, but like work is work. Like you don't really care who you work for, and he's an assassin.
But if he has like these moral qualms about certain things,
Well,
it seems oddly
like most people
arbitrary that just
like
all of a sudden
it's
he's
a common
just gonna,
thing though in films, at least for the portrayal of hitmen to have some kind of code of honor, at least that you don't kill children. And
That's fair.
That was what did it over the edge for his character in this movie, is that he gets to the compound and the
But again,
lady
I don't
chick
buy
that's
it,
with
though.
him
I don't
is
buy it
talking about Lloyd killing the girl upstairs, and so
Right.
that's the issue that he takes. Like,
But I don't
they
buy it
explain it as much as they
because-
can in the movie. I can agree that it doesn't really make as much sense and
No,
play as well
'cause
as they wanted
it's
it
like,
to.
for real, dude. Like that's where you draw the line. But at the same time, you just went through a hospital, like shooting up the place to get away, and like killing cops, and
Right,
like all of a
it's-
sudden it's like children is where you draw the line. And more importantly, you didn't know that Lloyd would kill a kid to do what he needs to do. It's like, okay, really,
Lloyd would kill
really?
his own mother.
Really? It's not believable.
Yeah.
It didn't sell it for me. I did like, however, that they didn't have the ultra feminist movement present in this film, where the female action hero is able to just physically overpower or just go beat for beat with the other, the male antagonist, because I'm sorry, but that's just not reality. Like that's
Right.
just not how it works. Sorry. Like female MMA.
They do have a lot of good fights, though.
Yeah, you do. But the point I was trying to make is like you don't. It's just like Atomic Blonde was so stupid.
Didn't watch
I
it.
don't like Charlize Theron, but in any case, like I watched it and it was so stupid because Charlize Theron was like literally throwing men that were outweighed her by like over 100 pounds, just ragdolling them and just mutilating them in these fist fights, two at a time usually, and it was like, okay, that is just not believable at all. Not that a woman cannot be a competent fighter. I've trained in martial arts most of my life. I know for a fact that women can. I've been beaten by women before. But the point I'm trying to make is that the average woman against the average man is going to lose in a test of physical strength. That is just the way it is.
Right.
Take it up with God, people. I didn't make the rules. So
But I do like the final fight that those two characters
yeah, the
had.
point I was trying to make is that Ana de Armas doesn't just wipe the floor with him. She almost dies and would have died if he basically didn't just give
They
up.
both like almost kill each other a couple times.
A couple times. He clearly
Like, it does
has
go
the
back and
advantage.
forth.
He clearly has the edge. And it's strength. It's just physical strength. Like
Right.
he's able to just pick her up and throw her.
Right.
And she's just not able to match that. Like she has technical skill, but she just can't overcome the physical limitations of the fact that he outweighs her by like 30 pounds and is stronger than she is.
Sure.
And he eventually just decides, like, look, I don't want to kill you. I just want to walk away from this.
Yeah.
Here you go. I'm done. And that's exactly what happens. He
A little
just walks away.
unexpected, but didn't hate it.
No, I didn't hate it either. I was relieved that they didn't have, like, Ana de Armas just, completely, like, catching fists and, like, punching him in the face with his own fist. And just doing stupid stuff, like, superhero level super strength, basically. That would be believable because that's the
Right.
universe and therefore those are the rules. But this is the real world and the real physics
So
apply.
answer me this.
So, go ahead.
Moving on to something else. Who was the old man that they kept referencing in the movie?
You're going to have to be a little bit more specific than that.
Because they talk about it multiple times, especially with Denny, where it's like, does the old man know yet?
I think they were talking about Billy Bob Thornton's character.
No, because they're talking about it after the fact. And does he know what?
That's interesting. I don't remember. I assumed
Like, that's
that
what
it
I
was
thought at
Billy
first,
Bob
too. I
Thornton's
thought it was his
throughout
character.
the
Like,
whole
oh,
movie.
okay, that makes sense. But then they continue to talk about it after they have him. About the old man. And he's probably heard about it by now. But, like...
I think they were talking about Billy Bob Thornton's character because
Maybe they were, but after they had captured him, they were still talking about it.
as if
He,
he had like some sort of external power to stop what they were doing if he somehow found out about what they were doing.
which he doesn't because he's retired and no longer a part of the agency.
And also he's sitting
It just-
upstairs with all of his fingernails ripped out, tied to a chair.
It just played off like there was this other, like, senior guy in the agency above Denny, which we know there would be.
Yeah.
That
I just
These things
genuinely
need to
assumed
get
that it
cleaned up.
was Billy
unless
Bob
I remember
Thornton's
things
character.
wrong, but they mentioned it several times, even after they had captured Thornton's character, and made it seem like there was somebody above Denny that they needed to like clean things up before they found
Right.
out and came in and handled it themselves, which would be
Right.
bad for them, which would make sense. But they reference it and they never show any. They never show them. They never go back to it. And they also talk about how Denny Carmichael is clearly a despicable person and has been using the agency as his own
To do
hit
his own
squad,
thing for a while,
but for
yeah.
years. But even before he was the head of this division, which is why he pushed the other two people out. And they make it clear in the film that somebody else is like pushing him up the chain of command for these reasons. But then they never revisit that either. They never talk about that. There's
plot hole.
It's not so much a plot hole, it's just a loose thread.
That just
It's not
doesn't
something
get tied
that
up.
yeah, it's just something they brought up and drew attention to. Like it mattered enough to draw attention to, but then it never went anywhere.
I'd say
So it's just a thread
Yeah.
that didn't get tied up at the end, where I was just like, well, what about? Oh, you're not going to talk about that? Okay, that's what I was interested in because I kept waiting for it to like
Be this
where's it going to go
reveal,
somewhere?
yeah.
Where's it going to go somewhere?
And then
who's
the-
going to get their comeuppance at the end?
film's got a good.
And I kind of like the fact that nobody does actually get a big comeuppance at the end.
Yeah.
like everybody that
I
is
mean,
in
Lloyd
charge
dies.
is still in charge. Lloyd dies, but
But
like Denny is still in charge.
doesn't take a
the
fall
other
for
agents
anything
are
that
all still
happened.
in charge. Like all that really happens at the very end is
But Six gets away.
Six kills the people that are guarding Claire, and he rescues her.
It was pretty cool though. Like she gets a note and It tells her to play the record super loud. She knows what's about to happen.
He sneaks a record of Silverbird into her room, which is the song that she was listening to when he killed the assassin at the beginning of the film that was trying to kill her, and puts a note in that says "Play me loud," so she knows exactly what's
she's
going to
obviously
happen.
like traumatized by all of the violence and noise that has been going on, and he just cleans house, kills all these dudes, and rescues her, and the film ends. And then that's
I like that they don't play it off like very, like, she knows what's happening. Mm-hmm. But like during that rescue scene at the end when he's like killing everybody, like the song's playing, and she's like sitting in her room, covering her ears, like crying, like freaking out because. So I like that they did their best to make all of the characters seem like real people.
Yeah, like
for the most part,
like 15-year-old girl would
like
be
you have the
highly
over,
traumatized.
Like the two
by
over the top
everything.
people are the villains. Like, like Denny Carmichael and Lloyd. What's his name?
Yes,
those are the two like way over the top. Where it's like the stuff with Denny really annoyed me. Where it's like, at first I'm like, I don't believe that you are in this position. Like I just don't believe it.
Right.
Which is why I like the fact that they brought up like, okay, it seems like there's other people in the agency from above that are pushing him up.
Yes.
That are like trying to get him. Okay, like okay, that makes
and
sense.
Lloyd's character
because
is just
this
over
is a
the top
despicable person. There's
because
no way he actually would have gotten to this point.
Right.
So it makes sense if other people were pushing him there. Cool. But then that storyline never went anywhere. So it just got to the end and like nothing happened. And on one hand, I like the fact, like I mentioned before, there wasn't ever any comeuppance. Like sometimes the story just ends and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like that can be an okay thing. I just didn't like that there were a little loose threads at the end they didn't tie up.
Yeah. I think it's a 7. It's worth watching. It's not trash. It's good.
6.5 for me.
It's
I was gonna go 7, but I think after
I'll do. Yeah, you know, I think you're. I think you're right. I think you're right. It's
not bad.
It's a tune out. If you have nothing else to watch and you are looking for something to watch,
it is a fun time.
Don't pass on it. It's good.
Yeah, it's a fun time.
But don't expect to watch this and have your life changed or have your film tastes to be altered in any way.
One other thing I wanted to point out is, at first it was like, wow, there are a lot of like sweeping drone shots. And then after about the first hour, I'm like, they're really overdoing it with these sweeping drone shots. That like, I get it. You're trying to be stylistic, and the majority of the shots were cool, but it was just a little overdone. Like everything in this movie, where it's just a little much.
Yeah,
just a little much. It's a fun time. It's a good time, but it's just a little much at times. But yeah, that's where I was. It's like 6.5. I think is good. Where it's like you said, if you don't have anything to watch, or even if you're just curious and interested, like it's worth a watch.
Yeah, if you watch this review and
you're
not sure whether or not you want to watch the movie, you probably will enjoy it. It's not woke. It doesn't have any. There's no sex scenes or anything that I can think of. No. If you're the kind of person that doesn't like to watch stuff like that,
it was right at my alley. Like, the two things I don't mind in films are like violence and language. Like,
yeah,
if anything, like that's what I can deal with.
I usually draw the line at nudity, where I just
I don't want to watch something that has gratuitous amounts of nudity or sex in there for no other reason than just
for it being there. No,
like that. But I can deal with like
I can't
tons
watch
of violence and language like that. Doesn't bother me.
Yeah, it's just your own personal tastes. I mean, if your sensibilities are offended by one thing over another, it is what it is. But yeah, this film is fairly innocuous, but it doesn't really have any of those things. So it's fairly safe if you have older children that you want to watch it with.
Yeah, I don't know. I certainly wouldn't. What is this movie rated? I don't even know.
It's like PG-13 or something.
No. Really?
Maybe. I don't remember. I don't even look at ratings anymore. I don't have kids. I'll probably pay a lot more attention. I don't look at ratings either.
It's really bad where it's like so I don't know, like, what is this? Is this 13 or is this R?
Yeah.
And what is it R for? I don't know.
Well, then it also is completely arbitrary because, like, movies that were rated R in the 90s were
the MPAA, which is now just the MPA.
Yeah.
Their rating system has changed drastically over the last 100
There
years.
are 70s movies with like full-blown frontal nudity that were PG-13, and then...
Well, because at the time...
It's just funny to me.
Right,
you watch like an 80s movie, it's like,
cinema,
this is R!
Everything was...
No, it's not.
Everything was, like, unrated for the longest time. And at the dawn of the MPA, like, you could either choose to have your films rated or not. Like, not everything that was released was actually rated. That's still how you can do things today. You do not have to submit your film for a rating, which means it just gets released as an unrated or an NC-17 film automatically by theaters. But like back in the day, everything was G, and G did not mean for kids. G meant general audience, meaning it's a
Adults.
film for everyone. It's an adult film that everybody can enjoy is what it meant. So anything that went beyond that at all, that was outside the realm
But
of
you know what I
just
mean, though, how,
a
like-
general audience was PG, which meant
Right.
parental guidance. Just like you need a parent's guidance to see this film.
Right.
Which is why, like, you're right, like films back in that time that were rated PG that had large amounts of nudity in it that wouldn't see the day. It was just
Like
a rating
tons of-
system
yeah.
progressing over time.
Yeah, and like 2 or
So,
3 F-bombs.
You
and then
can't
it's like,
look
oh,
at
that's PG-13.
You can't look at like PG-rated films back in the 40s or 30s and like as you would today.
I think
Like,
the biggest
it just
offenders,
changes
though,
over time. It
I
changes.
think the biggest offenders, though, at least from what I've experienced, because I grew up watching older movies from the 60s through the 90s, there's a huge change and shift in the way that ratings appeared.
For sure. Yeah, especially from that 30-year
Like
period.
PG-13 in the 60s was fairly accurate, and then like it totally shifted in the 70s, where you would have like a Dirty Harry movie that was R, but then like in the same token, you would have another film that was PG-13 that would have like full-blown frontal nudity.
Yeah,
and
in the 90s rolled around, you'd have some movies that are like rated G that would be PG-13 today.
yeah, and I remember watching some 80s films that were rated R, and it was like, what was this rated R for?
Right,
I
it-
couldn't tell you.
They just went and there's just big, massive swings in how the rating system works in America.
Yeah, it's not accurate at all.
Anyway,
All that is to say, this
we don't
film
know what this is rated.
Yeah, and
let me look and see what it actually is.
I wouldn't necessarily have your small children watch this film. Then again, I mean, America clearly doesn't care how our children are being raised. We just plop them in front of televisions and just let them consume endless amounts of
It's
media. and
PG-13.
then We wonder why they turn out confused
Yeah,
and
PG-13, which
corrupted
makes sense
and
because I didn't hear
crazy.
any F-bombs, and all of the violence was very much implied violence. It
Bloodless,
showed very little.
yeah.
Except for like maybe some
off-screen
squibs here and there.
explosions, things like that. Except for
that
one
tracks.
guy getting shot in the butt with a tranquilizer dart, which was fun.
Why are you walking funny?
Shot in the butt? Anyway. So it's
Anyway.
decent. Watch it, don't watch it, but don't pan it simply because it's a Netflix original.
Yeah, it's worth checking out.
worth a watch.
Definitely.
And it passes my woke test, which I have no tolerance for those things anymore. So I think that's going to do it for this week's episode of How Good Is It Really? If you've enjoyed this episode, thank you for sticking around, and if you would leave us a like and a subscribe and share this video with your friends, those of them that you think would enjoy this, we'd really appreciate it. If you didn't like the video, thank you for sticking around anyway. Jeremiah?
And if you are listening to us over on Spotify, thank you very much. If you would follow us and leave us a rating over there, that helps out a great deal as well. And we will see you next time.
Later.